And also, you don't want your sounds to clip. So what I mean there is you want to keep the output 1 and 2 from going into the red zone. So what I've done here is I've taken these instruments and I had to go through and turn down each one little by little until eventually I got it to a point where it would never go into anything above 0 dB. You can give yourself more headroom on this because you'll be able to make it louder in the mastering process, which I'll go on to next once I'm done with this. So let's see, you don't put any effects on the master bus yet because that's mastering, and I'll do that. I usually do that after exporting it, so that way I don't have to worry about all this stuff here. I just have the raw audio file for the whole thing right up here. So once you're done with all this, you want to turn off this loop thing. Go to the beginning, and then I would choose and bounce up here, or you can go to File, Bounce. Now you want to pick some certain settings here to assure that you get the best quality possible. So first of all, I usually like to save it to a place that's easier for me to access, like desktop, and then I would say the name of the song, there. So that's a pretty nice name. Now what you'll want to choose is you'll want to have it export it as a PCM, pulse code modulation, which is an uncompressed file format. Now what I choose right here, you see resolution, you'll want to turn that to 24-bit. Now what this does is it gives your song a lot of detail in the up and down in the volume range. So your song moves up and down in volume, but this, when you choose 24-bit, it means that you can have tons of detail as to how much it moves up and down. Let's see. I'm sure there's something on YouTube that explains it. If there's something that does explain it really well, then I'll put a link on the screen so that you guys can click on it and understand that better. But you choose this so that you can get the best file quality possible when you're done mastering it. So you choose this, and then you click Bounce, which will take all of the tracks that you've made so far and make it all into one audio file, which is 24 bits, which is high dynamic file, so that you have a lot to play with when you're mastering. So I'm going to cancel that because I've already got my mastering thing for this song done. Okay, so I'll see, close that and don't save it because I didn't make any changes that I wanted to make in it. Alright, so here we are. I've got all my mastering tools open for this song. Now I'll go to a different space. Now you see right here, all I have is just that audio file that I bounced. So I'll go to the beginning and play it. Now as you can see, this is very loud right now because I've got all my mastering tools on it, and I've made it so that it sounds loud but still has dynamics. So I'll go over here and show you all the tools that I use and why I use them. So let's see, first I gotta check to see which order they're in. Okay, first I have the exciter. Now what this does is it takes the frequencies that you have and it distorts the high frequencies a little bit, so that you can get a shinier sound. Now you got to be careful with this because if you add too much, it'll make it sound nasty and stuff. But if I uncheck this input box, you can hear what it's adding to the song, which really isn't much. But I mean, if you can tell that it's adding stuff to it, then it's probably too much. So I'll play it with just this. Yeah, alright, you probably can't hear that very well. So it's just a bunch of high frequency things that have been slightly distorted. You can choose the distortion color down here and choose how much of that distorted signal you want to go through. So after that, let's see, I have the Multiband Compressor, which is one of my favorite tools in this whole mastering process because it helps you control the dynamics of the different frequency ranges. So what I do with this, here first I'll disable the limiter right here. Yeah, okay. Now what this does is it takes these different bands, so you've got 12 hertz to 100 some hertz right here, and what it's going to do, it's going to take this volume, and once it gets past a certain point, it starts to level it off. So if it goes above this volume, it's going to start slowing. I mean, it's not going to get any louder than this, but it's going to be a little bit gentle. It has a nice curve. But in order to choose these bands for the multiband compressor, what I would recommend is that you take these different EQ bands and then you go down, set all of them to 0. I usually start with the bass just because it's my favorite. So I set all these down to 0 except for the bass, and I'll turn that up a little bit, and then I'll just solo it. Now what I do here is while it's playing, I adjust this frequency thing until it captures a good range of instruments that match each other. I mean, you'll be able to hear a little bit of the other frequencies while you're listening to it in the multiband compressor. I think there's a multipressor in Logic Studio, which is a lot better than this, but I don't have Logic Studio, and so this is basically free for what I already have. So I would go here, adjust the frequencies. What I've done here is I've adjusted it so that this captures a good range of the sub-bass instruments. And I don't want it to capture any more than that because I'm only trying to control their dynamics. And so then I'll do the same thing for the next band. I'll bring everything down, except bring this one up. Now for this one, I chose the frequencies that sort of sound a little bit muddy, but still a little bit bassy. Now these frequencies, you can cut back on them a little bit, but if you're not too careful, if you cut too many of these frequencies out, it's about 200 to 500 hertz range, somewhere in there. If you cut too many of these frequencies out, then your mix will sound very empty. It will sound hollow almost. So what I've done here is I've compressed it a bit more harshly than the bass here. So I've got the bass, which I've allowed to have more volume range. This one, I'm a bit more harsh to it. I have that lower, but it curves more gently than the bass does. Now this next frequency range I've gotten here, let me bring that one up. Now this frequency range I've found by taking, well, I dragged this out until I got a good range that covered all of the lead instruments. So the guitar sounding synth that I have there and stuff like that. And a little bit of the snare as well. Now the final range, if you've gotten everything right, then this shouldn't be too much of a problem, but I mean it can help to listen to this on its own and then adjust the band accordingly. But to listening to this band, I got mostly just the fizzy sounding stuff off of the lead instruments along with the hi-hats and stuff like that, which has all the high frequency content. Now let's see, when you're playing with the multiband compressor, it has a couple glitches which bother me. If you drag the bands over top of each other, then sometimes it will make a nasty loud pop, so be careful with that. Also dragging it to the very edge or dragging it quickly at all. Sometimes it's given me glitches where it makes nasty loud pop. I don't like it. Be careful, okay? So let's see, I'm going to see if I can undo all those changes that I made. If not, then okay, good.